guys. Hey guys, it's Daniel Faust, Learn and Live on YouTube Live. This is our last live for the day. We've done it in 4 locations, and it's organic, even though it's the same conversation. It is me doing it live. We will be transitioning to the Mevo camera, going over and streaming this in multi-locations once we get back to Scottsdale, Arizona. So ask your questions now, because once we multi-stream, you'll have to go over and ask them after, and I'll have to follow up with you. All right, so freedom in communication. Are we truly free? My opinion, we're truly not, because we go over and we make decisions emotionally and then we intellectually justify. That's not true freedom. That's not truly serving the people. And when freedom we have also takes responsibility. So we need to go over and learn. I need to go over and learn on a continuous basis how we go over and communicate. And is it truly free just to go over and say, shoot our mouth, or think it through and then type it out, or go over and do a Facebook Live and go over or YouTube Live or whatever that modality is and speak about something? So everything that I've gone over and taken on for the past couple years, I've taken on this more responsibility that to be truly free is to go over and say, you can stand on something, but you'd be willing to go over and stand on it it doesn't matter on the circumstances. And then also going over and emotionally taking responsibility, and then loving on people as you're going over and communicating. Because when you communicate in love, then you're truly free to go over and speak. And if we're both communicating in love, we truly can go over and speak. So how do we do that in communications without freedom? Well, we base on our emotions first, and that charges us, and then we intellectually justify. That's a lie. That's setting the lie. When I go over and let's say I hear somebody talk about religions or politics or whatever, and I get emotionally charged, and I just go over and shoot my mouth off, and then I intellectually justify whatever my point is, that's setting the lie. And I'm typically going over and being hurtful and spiteful to whoever I'm talking to. I'm going to be using you are statements, which are accusatory. I'm going to use really strong language and words to get my point across. And it's needed in some things, but in the majority of things, it does not need to be needed. You can go over and communicate with I think and I feel statements, and also go over and adjust your communication style. But you have to learn how your communication style works so you truly have freedom, so then your outpouring is continual of a service of love. So 2 questions we ask most of the time in our feeds, not always, but are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? That's the first question you need to ask on how you're going over and communicating your freedom. Are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? You'll lean between more than one to the other, but which one do you lean closer to? Second question is, are you more task-oriented or are you more people-oriented? Which one do you lean more towards, more task-oriented or people-oriented? Those 2 questions will go tell me what type of communicator you are, and then how freely or unfreely you will go over and communicate. So if you're outgoing and task-oriented, you communicate with a dominance, a directness, a demandingness. You be very decisive when you go over in your communication, and you will go communicate with results. You will tend to lean both the dominant and the inspiring style, which we'll get into in a second. You tend to lean as my mouth thinkers. You will take your thoughts and literally process them through your mouth instantaneously. That 200-mile-an-hour connection that can go down your back almost, they've clocked it. It can go pretty fast. I might be a little off. That you literally shoot it. And that is a good thing and can be a bad thing depending on the audience that you have. Like on Periscope, I had a couple people go over and ask some really extreme questions on where I go over and stood. And if I went over and just processed with my mouth 100% and my emotions 100% and said where I stood at, it wouldn't have worked out well. It wouldn't have kept the audience. It wouldn't have served them in love. And then I'd be answering out of ignorance, which definitely is not love. You want to answer out of knowledge and wisdom. So those particular styles are great if you have an impromptu speech, or you have questions that go over and come up, but we still need to go over and to think it before we go over and say it sometimes. So what about the more inspiring style? They're more outgoing people, inspiring style. You're more outgoing and people-oriented style, which is more inspiring, inducing, interested in people, but you can be a tad illogical. And your style is more of a fun style to go communicate. So informal and going off the cuff and going over and being natural and whatnot. That sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing. You know, if you go over and you're sitting with the boss and he wants you to go chill out and relax, that's great. But person like myself, if you're doing military or government or other things and I call somebody by their first name, that's not being professional, that's being disrespectful. And even though I have the freedom to go over and to do that, doesn't mean is it loving? Is it truly free? No, it's not. So again, I know I'm going more towards the caution sides of things, or it even can be towards the negative, but we're trying to go over and to establish what it could go over and look like. So they're great personality styles. They're great, but not all the time. The same thing with the other two styles. So let's say you're more reserved and people-oriented. You're more sweet, you're more sensitive, stable, you're status quo. You can be sentimental, but you can be a tad of a sucker. And your communication style would come from a peace and harmony style. And that could be great a good percentage of the time, but peace and harmony doesn't always go over and work. If we keep leaning towards one particular person, or we say we stand on something because we're standing for a friend, are we willing to go over and take the hit for that? No, we might go over and blame shift and say, well, I support them because of this and da-da-da-da. And it doesn't help. And that's not truly free in our communication if we're bounded by people and not bounded by what we believe. And then lastly, more of the reserve and task-oriented. So they communicate more cautiously, more careful. They can be a tad cold, and they are very competent and cognitive in the way they're thinking. They think of it in quality answers, excellence, and value. That's great, a good percentage of the time. But if they go over and keep it all in their head and they don't go over and speak because they don't think it's right, we might lose a lot of thought leaders in marriage, family, faith, leadership, communication, social, political, religious type movements, whatever, and we never hear them go over and speak. So that's not a good thing either. So we really need to ask ourselves the bigger question. In a sense of freedom and communication, are we truly free? We're truly free when we know who we are and what style that we are, our motives, our values, and our personality style. And we're truly free when we can go over and speak our piece, stand where we stand, and then go over and still love on people where they're at and allow them to go over and stand on their views, values, and opinions. We hope to go over and influence change in people's thoughts and lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. But if they don't go make that choice, then that's okay. And that's true freedom in communication, and then you're truly free. Because you can love on everybody at the same time, but still stand where you stand. And that's the great thing about America, and that's the great thing about streaming opportunities and all those types of things. Hopefully we can take that responsibility and also take the consequences of whatever we go over and communicate also. So thank you all for watching, or on the future replays. Ask any questions. If I see the feeds, I will definitely answer. You can also direct message me on IG, LearnLive121806, or go over and instant message me at Learn and Live on Facebook, or Daniel Faust on Facebook. Thanks for your time, and this is our last stream, so we're checking out.